The great hall of the Galactic Council was quiet. Too quiet. Dr. Hansol stood at the speaker's platform, his blue skin looking slightly pale as he faced the 50 most powerful beings in the galaxy. His report had made them all stop talking at once. Even the normally noisy cleaning robots had stopped moving. "Please repeat your last statement," Dr. Hansol said Supreme Counselor Darim. His voice was calm, but his 4 eyes were wide open. Dr. Hansol took a deep breath. "Yes, Supreme Counselor. Our research team on Earth has found something very important. The humans have a special phrase they say before they do something extremely dangerous or impossible. They say, 'Hold my beer.'" A council member from the back stood up. "What is a beer?" "It is a drink humans enjoy. But that's not the important part," Hansol explained. He touched a button on his datapad, and a large screen appeared in the air. "Please watch these videos from Earth." The first video showed a human looking at a broken spaceship engine. Everyone said it would take 2 weeks to fix. The human smiled, handed his drink to a friend, and said, "Hold my beer." He fixed it in 3 hours. The second video showed a human woman looking at a damaged space station. The experts said no one could fly through the debris field to reach it. She handed her drink to her co-pilot, said those same words, and flew through perfectly. More videos played. Each time, the humans did something that should have been impossible. Each time, they started by saying those 3 words. Darim leaned forward in his chair. "How often does this happen?" "Very often, Supreme Counselor," Hansol said. "We have recorded 2,847 such events in the past Earth year alone. The success rate is 94.3%. The hall burst into worried whispers. One council member dropped her datapad. Another spilled his drink. "But how?" asked Darim. "How can saying words make them do impossible things?" Hansol shook his head. "We don't know. Our best scientists say it might be related to something humans call spite. When someone tells a human they can't do something, they try even harder to do it. The phrase 'hold my beer' seems to activate this trait." "Are they dangerous?" a council member asked. "Not exactly," Hansol said. "They mostly use this power to help others or solve problems. But," he paused, looking nervous. "But what?" Darim asked. "But they're getting better at it. Last month, a human engineer said 'hold my beer' and then rebuilt an entire ship's engine using only spare parts from a food machine. He said he did it because someone told him it was impossible." The council chamber went quiet again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. What would happen when humans joined the galactic community? What impossible things would they try to do? Darim stood up slowly. "Dr. Hansol, thank you for your report. Council members, we need to discuss this. Humans will join our community soon. We must be ready." He looked at the screen, where a human was doing something amazing with a broken gravity generator. "We must be very ready." As the council members began their heated discussion, Hansol quietly left the chamber. In his office, he looked at one more video. A human was preparing to try something new with a teleporter. The human smiled at the camera, handed their drink to a friend, and said those words again. Hansol quickly shut off the video. Some things, he decided, were better left unreported until the council could handle the truth about humans and their strange, powerful phrase. Captain Jaiwan Park stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Pioneer, staring at the massive asteroid field ahead. Behind her ship, a colony vessel carrying 2,000 sleeping humans waited helplessly. Their navigation systems had failed, pushing them directly into the path of the deadly field of space rocks. The captain's communication screen lit up. An elegant alien ship had appeared nearby, its design unlike anything humans had seen before. "Human vessel, this is Ambassador Cayenne of the Galactic Council," a calm voice said. "We detect you are on course for the Crimson Asteroid Field. You must turn back. No ship has ever survived passage through it." Jaiwan looked at her crew, then at the sleeping colonists on her screens. Turning back meant the colonists would run out of supplies before reaching another safe route. The asteroid field stretched for light years in every direction. With respect, Ambassador, Jai-1 said, "We can't turn back. We have 2,000 lives depending on us." "Captain, you don't understand." Cayenne's voice grew urgent. "The field's magnetic properties make normal navigation impossible. Our most advanced ships have tried and failed. The loss of life would be—" Jai-1 removed her captain's badge and handed her coffee mug to her shocked second-in-command, Sang-ho. "Hold my coffee," she said with a small smile. On the alien ship, Ambassador Cayenne watched in horror as alarms started blaring. "They're accelerating. They're going to enter the field." The Pioneer shot forward. Jai-1's hands moved across her control panel, like she was playing a complex musical instrument. The ship rolled and twisted, dancing between asteroids that should have been impossible to dodge. "Captain, the magnetic field is affecting our sensors," Sang-ho reported, clutching the coffee mug tightly. "Don't need them," Jai-1 said calmly. "Look out the window. Feel the ship. Listen to her engines. Sometimes the old ways work best." The alien crew watched in stunned silence as the Pioneer wove through the asteroid field like a needle through fabric. Jai-1 used the very magnetic fields that made the passage dangerous to help her, letting them pull the ship at certain moments, then fighting against them at others. "Impossible," Cayenne whispered. "They're doing it." Halfway through the field, a massive asteroid appeared directly in their path. "Too big to dodge," Jai-1 smiled. "Sang-ho, remember that trick we used in the simulator? The one that got us banned from the training center?" Sang-ho's eyes widened. "Captain, you can't mean—" "Full power to the front shields. Reverse engine thrust on my mark." Jai-1's hands tightened on the controls. "Sometimes you have to bounce." The Pioneer struck the asteroid at precisely the right angle. The shield energy combined with the magnetic field created a perfect rebound effect. The ship bounced off the asteroid like a stone on water, skipping over a cluster of smaller rocks that would have torn them apart. 20 minutes later, the Pioneer emerged from the other side of the field. Behind them, the colony ship followed the exact path they had carved out, its automated systems copying their trajectory perfectly. On the alien ship, no one spoke for a full minute. Finally, Ambassador Cayenne opened the communication channel again. "Captain Park, how did you know that would work?" Jai-1 accepted her coffee back from Sang-ho, taking a slow sip. "I didn't, but someone said it was impossible, so I had to try." She paused. "Also, I played a lot of video games as a kid. Does wonders for spatial awareness." As the Pioneer continued on its way, Cayenne sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. "Witnessed first confirmed. Hold my beer incident. Situation exactly as Dr. Hansol described. Request immediate update to space navigation manuals. Humans are different." In his office, Dr. Hansol read the report and added it to his growing file. He noted with interest that the captain had used coffee instead of beer. The phenomenon, it seemed, was evolving. He wondered what the humans would do next, and whether the galaxy was ready for it. The Unity Station was the pride of the Galactic Council. It was their first project with human engineers, and everything had been running smoothly for 6 months. Until today. Chief Engineer Ta-Hyun Kim was eating his lunch when the alarm started. The station's main reactor was failing. Red lights flashed everywhere as he ran to the engineering section. 3 alien engineers were already there, looking at screens and shaking their heads. Chief Technical Officer Raven, a respected engineer from the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, was leading them. "The cooling system has failed completely," Raven said. "The backup systems are not responding. We need to shut down the reactor and request emergency help." Ta-Hyun looked at the readings. "How long will that take?" 3 days for the nearest repair ship to arrive," Raven replied. "We will have to evacuate the station and run on emergency power until then." Ta-Hyun walked around the reactor room, Looking at the machinery, he noticed something interesting about the cooling pipes. They reminded him of his grandfather's old air conditioning unit back on Earth. 3 days is too long, he said. The medical research section can't lose power for that long. Their experiments will fail. Raven's expression was sympathetic but firm. The reactor will overheat in 6 hours. There is no other solution. The cooling system design is too complex to fix quickly. Ta-Hyun smiled. He handed his tablet to his assistant. Hold my tablet. I have an idea. The alien engineers watched in confusion as Ta-Hyun ran to the storage room. He came back pushing a cart filled with strange items. Drinks dispensers from the cafeteria, parts from old cleaning robots, and several lengths of pipe. What are you doing? Raven asked. Those are not proper repair materials. Sometimes the best solutions aren't proper, Ta-Hyun said, as he started working. My grandfather taught me that any cooling system is just moving heat from one place to another. The method doesn't matter as long as it works. He took apart the drink dispensers, using their cooling units. He connected them to the pipes using materials from the cleaning robots. His hands moved quickly, putting pieces together in ways they were never meant to be used. This is not in any repair manual, one of the alien engineers said. The best solutions usually aren't, Ta-Hyun replied, not looking up from his work. 3 hours later, Ta-Hyun stepped back from his creation. It looked strange. Drinks machine parts were connected to reactor pipes. Cleaning robot processors controlled the flow. It hummed oddly and made occasional gurgling sounds. It's done, he said. Turn the reactor back to full power. Raven looked horrified. We cannot. This is not a proper cooling system. Do you trust your temperature sensors? Ta-Hyun asked. Of course. Then watch them. Ta-Hyun activated his makeshift cooling system. The temperature readings started to drop immediately. Within minutes, they were back in the safe range. His strange collection of spare parts was cooling the reactor as well as the original system. Raven stared at the readings in disbelief. How? This should not work. It breaks 6 different engineering regulations. But it does work, Ta-Hyun said, accepting his tablet back from his assistant. Sometimes you have to think like a grandfather fixing an air conditioner instead of an engineer building a reactor. That evening, Dr. Hansol received another report for his file. He read about the incident with great interest, noting how the human engineer had solved the problem using what the report called completely illogical methodology. The report ended with a request to update engineering regulations to include what they were now calling the human factor. Hansol smiled as he filed the report. The galaxy was learning that humans had their own way of doing things. He wondered what they would surprise them with next. The Grand Hall of Science on planet Lumino was filled with the brightest minds in the galaxy. They had gathered for the annual Galactic Science Conference, where the most important scientific problems were discussed. This year was special because humans were attending for the first time. Dr. Sunmi Lee sat quietly in the audience, listening as the galaxy's top quantum physicist, Professor Valtor, explained a problem that had puzzled scientists for 1,000 years. The problem was about moving information through quantum space instantly, something everyone agreed was impossible. We have tried for centuries, Professor Valtor said, pointing at complex equations on the floating screen. The math proves it cannot be done. The energy required would be more than a star contains. Sunmi looked at the equations carefully. They reminded her of something she had seen before, but not in physics. It was similar to a puzzle in her favorite video game, where players had to move energy through different dimensions. She raised her hand. The whole room turned to look at her. Humans were still new enough that everything they did attracted attention. Yes, Dr. Lee, Professor Valtor said politely. What if we're thinking about it wrong? Sunmi asked. She stood up and handed her notebook to her research partner. Hold my notebook. I want to try something. A murmur went through the crowd. Several alien scientists who had read Dr. Hansol's reports recognized those words. They started recording everything. Sun Mei walked to the front of the room. She began writing new equations next to the old ones. Her equations looked strange, using ideas from quantum physics, video game design, and even music theory. Dr. Lee, that is not proper scientific notation, Professor Valtor said, looking concerned. Sometimes we need new notation for new ideas, Sun Mai replied, still writing. In my favorite game, players use music to move energy between dimensions. The math behind it is surprisingly similar to quantum physics. The alien scientists watched in confusion as she filled the screen with equations that mixed serious science with ideas from entertainment. Some looked angry, others curious. There, she said after 20 minutes. The solution isn't to use more energy. It's to use less, but in a more creative way, like playing a perfect note that makes a wine glass shatter. Professor Valtor studied her equations. His eyes widened. This cannot, but the math is correct. Sun Mei walked to the quantum testing chamber in the corner of the room. It was used for small experiments. She input her equations into the control panel. Please step back, she said. This might look a little strange. She pressed the start button. The chamber hummed softly, playing a series of tones that sounded like music. A small ball of light appeared in the chamber, disappeared, and instantly reappeared on the other side. The room was completely silent. The ball had moved through quantum space using less energy than a light bulb. Professor Valtor checked all the readings 3 times. How did you think of this? He asked finally. Sun Mei collected her notebook, smiling. Sometimes the best science comes from unexpected places. Games taught me to think differently about energy in space. When everyone keeps trying the same solution, sometimes you need to change the rules. That evening, Dr. Hansol received another report. This one described how a human scientist had solved an ancient problem using completely unorthodox methodology inspired by entertainment software. He noted with interest that the scientific community was now officially adding a new category to their research protocols: human intuitive approach. As he filed the report, he wondered if the galaxy would ever get used to how humans solved problems. He suspected they would just have to accept that humans would always find new ways to surprise them. The Galactic Defense Command Center was in chaos. 3 merchant ships carrying medical supplies were trapped by space pirates in the Sapphire sector. The pirates had 12 heavily armed ships and were known to be dangerous. Commander Yunho of the Human Defense Force stood quietly at the back of the room, watching the alien commanders argue about what to do. His single ship, the Thunder, was the only military vessel close enough to help. 1 ship against 12 is suicide, Admiral Tevran said, his scaled skin reflecting the red emergency lights. We must wait for reinforcements. The merchant ships will run out of life support before help arrives, another commander pointed out. Yunho stepped forward. The Thunder can handle this. Everyone turned to look at him. They had heard about human capabilities, but this seemed too much. Commander Yunho, Admiral Tevran said carefully, your ship is excellent, but it cannot fight 12 pirate vessels at once. Yunho removed his command badge and handed it to his lieutenant. Hold my badge, he said with a slight smile. I'm not planning to fight them all at once. The alien commanders who knew about the hold my beer phenomenon immediately started recording. They had learned this was when humans did their most impressive and impossible things. Yunho activated the main display screen. The pirates are using the Crimson Nebula for cover. They think we can't see through it. He pointed to some small dots on the screen. But see these energy readings? Those are exhaust trails. They're hiding their ships in specific spots. How does this help? Admiral Tevran asked. They still outnumber you. Pirates follow patterns, Yunho explained. They're not trained soldiers. They park their ships where they feel safe, not where it's tactically smart. He began entering commands into the system, and they don't play much zero-gravity tennis. Before anyone could ask what tennis had to do with space combat, the Thunder moved into position. Yun-ho had programmed a complex series of maneuvers. The thunder fired special pulses into the nebula. The energy waves bounced off the pirate ships like a ball hitting different rackets. Each bounce revealed another ship's location. More importantly, the pulses disrupted the pirates' sensors. "Now they're blind," Yun-ho said calmly, and confused. The thunder accelerated, using the very paths of its sensor pulses to move through the nebula. To the pirates, it seemed like the human ship was everywhere at once. They started firing randomly, hitting each other in their panic. Yun-ho's ship moved like a dancer through the chaos. It disabled 3 pirate ships with precise shots, used its tractor beam to make 2 more crash into each other, and tricked several others into firing at sensor ghosts. In exactly 7 minutes, 11 pirate ships were disabled. The last one surrendered immediately. Admiral Tevran stared at the display in disbelief. How did you know that would work?" Yun-ho accepted his badge back from his lieutenant. "I play tennis in zero gravity for fun. It teaches you a lot about how energy moves in space. Sometimes the best military strategy comes from sports." That evening, Dr. Hansol added another report to his growing file. This one described how a human commander had defeated superior forces using unprecedented tactical applications of recreational physics. The military was now adding human recreational strategic analysis to their training programs. Hansol noted that humans seemed to find solutions in the most unexpected places: games, sports, old machines, and simple hobbies. Perhaps that was their true strength. They never stopped looking for answers, no matter where those answers might be found. The Galactic Council's Cultural Research Center was unusually quiet as cultural expert Minna prepared her presentation. She had spent 6 months studying the Hold My Beer phenomenon, and what she had discovered surprised even her. Minna stood before the council members, including Supreme Councilor Darim and Dr. Hansol. Her research materials floated on screens behind her, showing hundreds of documented cases. "Honored council members," she began, "I believe we have misunderstood humans from the start. We thought Hold My Beer was just about reckless behavior. We were wrong." She displayed video clips from recent events: Captain Jaewon's impossible flight, Engineer Ta Hyun's reactor repair, Dr. Sun Mi's quantum breakthrough, and Commander Yun-ho's space battle. "Look carefully," Minna said. In each case, the human first tried traditional methods. They only said the phrase and tried something unusual after normal solutions failed. This isn't recklessness. It's a cultural response to impossible situations. Supreme Councilor Darim leaned forward. "Please explain further." Minna showed a new set of images. In human history, they faced many situations where survival seemed impossible. Instead of giving up, they developed this interesting trait. When someone says something cannot be done, humans take it as a challenge. She played a recording from a human school. A teacher told students a math problem was too hard for their grade level. 3 students immediately started working on it together, determined to solve it. "It starts early in their development," Minna explained. "Humans teach their young that impossible just means no one has found a solution yet. The phrase 'Hold My Beer' is like a key that unlocks this way of thinking." Dr. Hansol raised his hand. "But why give someone their drink first?" Minna smiled. "That's the most interesting part. By handing someone their drink or badge or tools, they're showing trust in their community. They're saying, 'I might fail, but you're here to help if I do.' It's not just about the person trying the impossible. It's about having support." She showed more examples. Humans working together to lift fallen trees, building shelters in dangerous weather, finding ways to grow food in harsh conditions. Each time, someone would hand over their drink or tools before trying something new. "The phrase creates a moment of connection," Minna continued. "The person trying the impossible solution knows others are watching and supporting them. This actually increases their chance of success." Supreme Councilor Darim looked thoughtful. "So when humans join our community, we should not try to stop this behavior," Minna finished. "Instead, We should understand it. Humans don't try impossible things because they're reckless. They do it because they believe any problem can be solved if you're willing to think differently and trust others. That evening, Dr. Hansall read Minna's full report with great interest. She had included a recommendation that made him smile. When humans said, "Hold my beer," the correct response wasn't to stop them. It was to take what they offered, stand ready to help, and watch as they showed the galaxy new ways to solve old problems. He added the report to his files, marking it as essential cultural understanding. For the first time, he felt the galaxy might be ready to truly welcome humans into their community, not despite their strange ways of solving problems, but because of them. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began at midnight. A massive energy storm in the galactic core was growing out of control. If it wasn't stopped, it would destroy thousands of inhabited worlds. Supreme Counselor Darim looked tired as he addressed the gathered leaders. Our best scientists have failed to find a solution. The storm grows stronger every hour. We have perhaps 2 days before it becomes unstoppable. The room was silent. Even the most advanced civilizations had no answer to this crisis. Then Dr. Hansall stood up. There might be one option left, he said carefully. Captain Jaiwan Park is in the sector with her ship, the Pioneer. The council members muttered among themselves. They all knew about Captain Park's impossible flight through the asteroid field. Some had even studied the recording. She is just one captain with one ship, someone argued. This storm is destroying entire solar systems. Yes, Dr. Hansall replied. But she has something we need right now. The human way of solving impossible problems. Supreme Counselor Darim thought for a moment, then nodded. Contact her immediately. When Captain Park's image appeared on the main screen, she was already studying the storm data. Behind her, her crew was making preparations, even though they hadn't been asked yet. Can you help? Darim asked simply. Jaiwan looked at the readings again. The storm was like nothing she had seen before. Energy patterns twisted in ways that defied normal physics. Traditional solutions would never work. Then she noticed something familiar in the energy patterns. They reminded her of ocean waves during a hurricane. She had grown up in a coastal town on Earth, watching the storms roll in. Yes, she said finally, but I'll need complete control of my ship. No interference, no matter what it looks like I'm doing. Darim looked at the other council members. They all nodded. At this point, they had nothing to lose. Jaiwan turned to her crew. She removed her captain's codes, emergency override chip, and her backup command key. She handed them all to her second-in-command, Sangho. Hold my command codes, she said with a confident smile. I'm going to try something my grandfather taught me about hurricanes. The council chamber went completely quiet. They recognized those words. This was what they had been waiting for. Jaiwan's fingers flew over her control panel. The Pioneer moved toward the storm in a strange pattern, not fighting against the energy waves, but moving with them, like a surfer riding ocean waves. Captain, what are you doing? Someone asked. In a hurricane, Jaiwan explained as she worked. Trying to fight the wind gets you killed. But if you understand how storms move, you can use their own energy to guide them. My grandfather was a sailor. He taught me that the ocean is never your enemy if you learn to work with it. The Pioneer dove into the storm. Jaiwan used the ship's energy fields not to fight the storm, but to guide it. Like a shepherd herding sheep, she nudged the energy patterns, redirecting them away from inhabited systems. Hour after hour, the ship danced through the storm. Jaiwan's hands never left the controls. She worked with the energy patterns, understanding them not as a threat, but as a force of nature that could be guided. Finally, after 18 hours, the storm began to dissipate. G1 had channeled its energy into empty regions of space where it could do no harm. When it was over, the council chamber erupted in cheers. G1 accepted her command codes back from Sangho, her hands shaking slightly from exhaustion. Dr. Hansol added this report to his files with special care. A human captain had saved the galaxy by treating a space storm like an ocean storm. Once again, humans had found an answer in the most unexpected place: the simple lessons of a grandfather who loved the sea. 1 month after the Great Storm, the Galactic Council gathered for a special session. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from every major civilization. Today, they would officially change how the galaxy handled impossible problems. Supreme Counselor Dayrim stood at the center podium. Dr. Hansol and cultural expert Minna sat nearby, their research displayed on floating screens. Captain Jiwon, Engineer Ta-hyun, Dr. Sunma, and Commander Yunho were present as honored guests. Fellow council members, Dayrim began, when humans first joined our community, we worried about their unusual way of solving problems. We thought the phrase "hold my beer" was a warning sign of dangerous behavior. He gestured to the screens showing the many successful human solutions over the past year. We were wrong, he continued. What we saw as reckless was actually innovation. What we thought was chaos was creative problem-solving. Today, we established the Human Innovation Protocol. The new protocol appeared on all screens. It was remarkably simple. When faced with an impossible situation, if a human hands someone their drink, badge, or tools, and says any variation of "hold my beer," all standard protocols are suspended. The human must be given freedom to try their solution, no matter how strange it seems. But, Dayrim added with a smile, we have learned something important. It's not enough to just let humans try their unusual solutions. We must also do our part. He turned to Captain Jiwon. Captain, what happens when you hand someone your coffee or command codes? Jiwon stood. They become part of the solution, she explained. By holding my things, they show they trust me and are ready to help if needed. It's a partnership. Engineer Ta-hyun nodded. When my assistant holds my tablet, they're not just watching. They're supporting me, ready to provide information or help. Dr. Hansol stepped forward. This is why the protocol isn't just about letting humans try impossible things. It's about learning to trust each other and work together in new ways. Dayrim pressed a button, and the protocol updated. New words appeared. When a human invokes the "hold my beer" protocol, those present must 1. Accept what is offered with respect. 2. Stand ready to assist. 3. Trust in unconventional solutions. 4. Learn from the experience. The council members voted. The protocol passed unanimously. After the session, Dr. Hansol sat in his office, writing the final entry in his research file. The galaxy had changed in ways he never expected. Humans hadn't just joined the galactic community. They had helped it grow. He looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the human was probably handing someone their drink, about to try something impossible. And now, instead of worry, that action would bring hope. As if to prove his point, his communication screen lit up. A space station near the Emerald Nebula was having problems with its gravity systems. The station's human engineer had just handed their tablet to an alien colleague and said those famous words. Dr. Hansol smiled and started recording. The galaxy was learning that impossible just meant no one had found the right solution yet. And sometimes, the right solution started with 3 simple words: hold my beer.